Hi students, all of you welcome. Welcome to Sunil Engineering Academy. I am Sunil Kumar Bandaru. Students, in this general science, we have completed already so many topics. Recently, we have completed pressure. If you want previous session, just click on playlist and you can find out the previous session. In this session, we are going to discuss another mechanical quantity, that is friction and also surface tension. Okay, so these are also very important. In these two topics, I want to give only the important points. Okay, so to save our time, let me start the session, guys. And students, if you still not click on subscribe option, please click on subscribe and also please share to all your friends. Okay, so now the topic is friction. Very simple topic. Friction. What is meant by friction? Friction is nothing but like a resistance. It opposes the motion. It opposes the motion. Okay, so we know resistance which opposes the flow of current. The same way reluctance which opposes the flow of flux. In the same way friction which opposes the motion. Okay, so in case of electrical we have resistance. In case of magnetical we have reluctance. All these are opposing quantities. Okay, dissipative forces. Dissipative are opposing quantities. Okay, in electrical resistance, magnetical reluctance. In case of mechanical, we have friction, which opposes the flow of motion. In case of especially solids, if you can consider in liquids and gases, liquids and gases, we have viscosity. Viscosity, it is also opposing quantity. Okay, all these are nothing but dissipative forces. Okay, that means they consumes the energy. They consumes the energy. Okay, all of you getting? So friction is nothing but which opposes the flow of motion. For example, if we have one object. Okay, if we have one object, if you apply the force in this direction, then always friction force is opposition to that. Okay, friction always works opposite to the applied force. In case if the applied force, if our applied force is less than that of the frictional force, then what will happen? If the applied force, that means we have applied some force, that our applied force is less than that of the friction, then body may not move. Correct? Body may not move. May not move. Correct? Whenever our applied force is greater than that of the frictional force, then only body starts moving. Correct? Body starts moving. Okay. So for example, if I have given 1000 kg stone, okay, so can you move that one with your hands? No. Why? Because your applied force is less than that of the friction. If I give 1 kg of the object, then you can easily move that one. Okay, so that means your applied force is greater than that of the friction. So note down about the friction. Friction, the force which is acting opposite to the direction of applied force. Okay, the force which acts opposite to direction of motion. of motion. That means it is also somewhat like a one type of force only, but it is a dissipative force. Okay, which act opposite to the direction of motion. Okay, so if the applied force is in this direction, friction always opposite to the direction of that applied force. Okay, so you can say friction opposes the relative motion between two surfaces. Opposes the relative motion between two surfaces. Okay, and this friction is a dissipative force. Dissipative, that is consumable. Dissipative force. That means it consumes the force or it consumes the energy. Correct or not? Our vehicles are moving. Okay, so our vehicles are moving means those are consume some energy. Why? Because we are using the diesel and or petrol or whatever it may be. If there is a no friction, okay, then anyone if just push it up, also it may not stop. Simply going only. Okay, now no need of any energy. Correct or not? So this friction has very important role in our daily life. Friction has very important role. Just imagine guys, if there is no friction, what will happen? If there is no friction, can we walk? We can't walk. Why? Because whenever we place our foot on the surface, then it will be slips down. Whenever there is no friction, so then it will we may fall down. Correct? We may not brake for vehicle for our vehicles. So no vehicle concept, no walking concept, no eating concept also. Why? Because whenever we take some food with by using our hands, it may be fall down. Whenever there is no friction, it may food may be fall down. So we can't eat, we can't drink. Why? Because if you take any glass, then it may be fall down whenever there is no friction. Okay, so in our daily life, friction also important, but this friction always within limits. Okay, within limits. Whenever there is no friction, is also dangerous. Whenever there is a high friction, also not useful. Okay, whenever there is a very high friction, then whenever we place our foot, then because of a very high friction, very rough surface, very rough surface means that may be damages to our foot. Correct? So friction has to be within limits always. It is a dissipative force. Here the very important point, this is the important point. Sometimes definition also important. The force which is acting opposite to the direction of motion is friction. These 2 points are important for exams. Okay. So note down these two. And this friction generally depends upon nature of surface. If the surfaces are more irregular, more friction. Less irregular, that means very polished, very smooth means less friction. Okay. So note down friction depends on nature of two surfaces of the body which are in contact. The body in contact. Okay. Now coming to some examples of daily life, I have already given. That is nothing but we may not able to walk without friction. We may not hold any object without friction. Okay. So we cannot eat. We cannot use the vehicles. All those. We can't apply the brake whenever there is no friction. Correct. So now coming to increasing or decreasing in friction. Increasing of friction. How we can increase the friction? If surfaces are more irregular, uh, more irregular, then that means if this type of surfaces are more irregular, friction increases. Friction increases. And decreasing of friction. Methods to decrease the friction. Methods to decrease friction. How we can decrease the friction? By making smooth or polished surfaces. Smooth or polishing the surfaces. Whenever the surfaces are smooth or polishing, then we can reduce the friction. And by using lubricants. Lubricants are nothing but oils. Oil, grease. Okay, by using this one also can reduce the somewhat of friction. And anti-friction metals, by using anti-friction metals or low friction metals. For example, steel. Steel is very smooth surface, so we can reduce the friction. Or converting kinetic friction into rolling friction. Okay, so I will explain about kinetic and rolling friction. No need of worry. Okay, so by using all these methods, we can decrease the friction, but we cannot eliminate the friction entirely. Always some friction is there. Okay, zero friction is not at all possible. Why? Because always some irregularity is there. So friction never becomes zero. If it is zero, then things are very worst. Correct? Friction may not becomes zero because always some irregularities are present. Is present. Okay. So this part is very important. Generally, they will give the question like what are the methods to reduce the friction. So they will give all these three and option D all of the above. So we have to select all of the above. Okay. Now the next one is type of friction. Type or types of friction. We have three types of friction. Types of friction. Okay. Generally, we have three types. What are those? Static, dynamic, rolling. Okay. First one, static friction. Static friction means the friction which is act at the time of starting, or at the time of rest, at the time of static. Okay. If any object is at rest or static, static means not moving. Okay. So in this case, if you apply some force, then force of friction is act opposite to that one. Okay, so at the time of starting, if starting, the friction acting on the object is called as static friction. Okay, very simple. Note down. Force of friction which acts which acts when object is at rest or static. Okay, so whenever the object is at rest or static, the force of friction which act is nothing but static friction. Okay, force of friction which acts when the object is at rest or at static. That means if you try to move that one, this force of friction acting opposite. That means it makes the body stationary now. So this friction makes the body stationary. Okay, for example, if it is 1000 kg, if you applied some force, then this object is not at all moving means which is acting opposite to you. That is nothing but static friction. So static friction tries to make the object is stationary. Okay, is the force of friction which keeps object is stationary. Object is stationary or static is is called static static. Okay, so that means whenever our applied force is then that of friction, body is at rest only. The rest. Okay, body is at rest only. And coming to the second one, dynamic are also called as kinetic friction. Kinetic. This is the friction whenever the body starts moving. If the object or body starts moving, then again some force of friction acts on that one. That friction is nothing but kinetic friction. For example, if you can consider it is a 50 kg luggage bag. At the time of starting, if you want to move that one, the force of friction act is static friction. And whenever that luggage bag starts moving, then the friction acts on that one is kinetic friction or dynamic friction. Okay, kinetic friction or dynamic friction. So no doubt the frictional force or the force of friction which comes into play after the motion has started. After the motion has started. Motion has started. Okay, it is also called as kinematic friction. Now coming to the next friction, third one, rolling friction. Rolling. Whenever your luggage bag having the wheels, your luggage bag having the wheels, then whenever you drag it, it rolls over on the surface. Okay, rolls over on the surface. At the time, the force of friction act on that is nothing but rolling friction. Okay, when a body rolls over on surface, when a body rolls over on the surface is called rolling friction. Rolling friction. Okay, so from all these three, which friction is high, which friction is low, guys? For example, if you have one luggage bag, okay, it is having 50 kg. You are trying to move that one. At the initial time, you have to apply more force, correct? It is simply not at all moving. So whenever you apply very high force, then only it starts moving. Okay, and whenever it starts moving, then you feel that you have applied some less amount of the force. That means friction is somewhat of less. And after that, you have realized your luggage bag having wheels. Whenever your luggage bag having wheels, then you have opened the wheels and you try to drag it. Then what you feel? You have applied very little amount of the force. That means here friction is less, friction is reducing. That's why your applied force is reducing. Correct. So it is very easy now. That means here friction is less. So that means we can say that rolling friction is always less than that of kinematic friction or kinetic friction, that is less than that of static. So static is highest. Static friction is highest. Okay, all of you clear? That is the where this is the very important question. Which is the lowest friction? Rolling friction. Which is highest friction? Static friction. Okay. So if you want, you can note down luggage bag having wheels is easy to drag than without wheels. Okay, without wheels. And we are using the ball bearings, correct? Ball bearings in case of cycle or in case of motorcycles and so many. Okay, here ball bearings, what they are doing? They are converting kinetic friction into rolling friction. Rolling. So then what will happen? Friction reduces. Friction is reduces. Okay, friction is reduces. So the important of ball bearings, it converts kinematic friction into rolling friction. Rolling friction is very less. And we can also get idea from these. Here we have this much of contact area. Here also this much of contact area. And what about here? Less contact area. So whenever contact area is less, friction also less. Friction is less. This is also another important point. Okay, friction also less. So these are only important points in the friction. Okay, so no need to discuss more and more about this. The next one is surface tension. Next one is surface tension. Here in the surface tension also maybe 2 or 3 important points only. Okay, surface tension. So what is this surface tension? All of you know very well. It is just a property of liquid. It is just a property of liquid. Whenever the liquid falls on the surface, okay, whenever liquid fall on the surface, it always tries to occupy minimum surface area. Okay, whenever liquid fall on the surface, it always tries to occupy minimum surface area. This property is nothing but surface tension. For example, raindrops fall on the surface and they form into which form? Spherical shape. Why? Because sphere has minimum area for a given value. That's why they always try to occupy minimum surface or minimum area. That property of the liquid is nothing but surface. Okay. So what is the main reason they are trying to occupy minimum surface area? That is nothing but whenever two persons are occupy minimum surface area, what it means? Means there is a lot of attraction between them. So that's why they are occupying minimum surface area. Correct. So that means here also one force is there, that is a cohesive force. That is a cohesive force. Due to the cohesive force, these liquids are tries to occupy minimum surface area. The total property of the liquid is nothing but you can say surface tension. So note down about the surface tension. It is a property of liquid. It is the property of liquid the property of the liquid tendency to occupy minimum surface area. Surface area is nothing but surface tension. Example, raindrops fall on surface. Okay, raindrops fall on surface, forms spherical in shape. Spherical in because sphere as minimum area for given value. So what is the reason behind the raindrops fall into spherical shape? Surface tension. Very important. That point is very important. Okay. Is that property of the liquid. This is denoted by letter T. Denoted by T. And this T is equal to force by unit length. Force by unit length. If you can consider some liquid in the container like this, some liquid in the container. Here, this surface tension always tries to have the force on the total unit length of the liquid. Total unit length of the liquid. So force on the total unit length of the surface is nothing but you can say surface tension. So that means this upward force, or can also consider as buoyant force, tries to make any object is float. Any object is float on the surface. So if any object is float on the surface, maybe one of the reason is surface tension, or second reason may be density is less. Okay, those two reasons. Don't worry, I will give those 2 points. Okay, surface tension is denoted with the letter T, that is equal to force on the unit length. Force on the unit length. Then what will be the units? Newton per meter. Newton per meter. Okay. T is equal to force by unit length. So here I want to give cohesive force and adhesive force difference. Cohesive force is nothing but force of attraction, between same type of molecules. Same type of molecules. Okay. Or you can say force of attraction between molecules of same substance. Same substance. Okay, force of attraction between same type of molecules or molecules of same substance. The same way, adhesive force. Adhesive force. Here, it is also force of attraction. Force of attraction between different type of molecules. Okay, different type of molecules or molecules of different substances. Okay, different substances. Here, for example, let us take surface tension. Surface tension. So it is surface tension is formed due to only same type of substances now. So it is the reason behind is cohesive force. Cohesive force. Okay, for example, let us take blackboard and chalk. Then what is the force? Okay, so in this, whenever we write by using the chalk on the blackboard, the chalk is attached to the blackboard. Why? Because there is a chalk is a different substance, blackboard is a different substance. Whenever there is a force of attraction between two different substances is nothing but adhesive force. Here, adhesive force. Okay, adhesive. And the surface tension depends on temperature. Surface tension depends on temperature. What will happen as temperature increases? Whenever the temperature increases, then what will happen? The particles are going to move. The particles are going to be moved. They are going to expand. Are going to move means they occupies more surface area. More surface area means surface tension is less. So as temperature increases, surface tension decreases. Surface tension is decreases. Okay. And one more important point here. If any object float or swims on surface of water. Okay. For example, if any object float or swims on surface of water, there may be two reasons. There may be two reasons. Okay, what are those? First one, for example, if this is the water on the surface of water, if any one leaf is floating, any one leaf is floating. What is the reason? Because dried leaf. Let's take a dried leaf. Dried leaf is having less density than that of the water, correct? Dried leaf having less density than that of the water. So that may be one reason. Means whenever density of object less than that of density of water. This may be one reason. And the second one, let us take surface of water. Here we have one small needle is there. One small needle. If you place gently one small needle, that maybe floats. Okay. If we place a small needle gently on surface of water, it may float or swims. Here needle is the high density than the water generally. Correct. Why? Because needle is a metal. Metal having always high density than that of the liquid. So still it is floating. Why? Because there is some upward force is acting that one. That upward force is nothing but surface tension. Okay. It may float due to surface tension. Face tension. Okay. This upward force is also called as buoyant force. Okay. This upward force called as buoyant is also important. Okay. So all of you getting the points? So here in this session we have very less important points. Those are first one friction definition. Second one is nothing but friction is which type of force, dissipating force, methods to decrease the friction, and here which is the high friction, which is the low friction. High is the static, low is the rolling friction. Rolling friction is low, static friction is high. Okay, and ball bearing question and surface tension units formula, cohesive and adhesive forces, those examples, and if any object is float on the surface, two reasons. These are important. Okay. Okay, students, in the next session, we will discuss the other topics, capillarity, elasticity, viscosity, those topics, and we will end the this mechanical quantities. After that, we may start another topic, maybe heat or units and dimensions or electronics, any other topic. Okay. And students, if you still not click on subscribe option, please click on subscribe option and also please share to all your friends. If you really like my classes, don't forget to click on like option. That will encourage me to take more sessions, and also try to give the comments also. Okay. Okay, students, all of you, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye guys.